Tried to put a program together that covers a lot of different things to keep everyone interested. You could see just from these squares the UTA Frontrunner commuter train up at Provo, Utah on the upper left. Uh, Famous R11 built by Bud and the New York City subway system there at Dean Street on the Franklin Shuttle. And the Montreal Metro, the old cars that are still in service. We'll see some shots of all this today. Here we go. So Bob just read this a second ago, so we'll skip this. That's what I plan to show today. And we'll jump into Baltimore. I did mention that I want to show some of the older stuff, which we always kind of run out of time. But here's some Baltimore. We'll see a couple Baltimore PCC shots. Baltimore Transit Company 7139, taken in June of 1962. That's a Pullman built car from 1944. A nice shot in front of City Hall on Route 8, taken September 1963. Name on the slide, Robert McMahon. PCCs last ran in Baltimore in regular service in 1963. Obviously, you can see them in the Baltimore Streetcar Museum today. Another shot along Route 15. Here's car 7123 in May of 1961. It's always nice to see how these scans turn out. And a shot of two cars passing each other in downtown Baltimore, June 1963, taken by Richard Young. And that's what you'd see in Baltimore in the 60s. If you go there today, you'll see the light rail, which has been running for quite some time now. This is car 5018, built by ABB, 1991 to 1993. It's now called the Light Rail Link, running between Hunt Valley or BWI and Glen Burnie to the south. This started in 1992. Baltimore has changed the paint scheme on these 4 or 5 times in this span, so interesting place to visit because there's always something different. There's a map of the line showing how it's expanded. As I mentioned before, Hunt Valley on the north end, BWI and Glen Burnie on the south end. This is the Convention Center station in downtown Baltimore. Another shot of a light rail car. Again, that's the Convention Center on the right. Reason we went down there this year was to take some shots of the Baltimore Metro, which is now called the Baltimore Metro Subway Link. This is the yard, and the Baltimore system is 14 stations and 15.5 miles long. It opened in 1983. Currently uses these Bud-built cars, similar to what operated in Miami for years. There are new cars on order, and they will be replaced somewhat soon. I believe they're Hitachi cars. Yeah, 78 new Hitachi cars are on order. So get down to Baltimore, take some pictures if you're interested in the subway. The shops here are near the Rogers Road Station on the Metro. Couple views here of the yard. Drones can be wonderful things to access places that are not easily accessible. If you look toward the back of the view, there is a pair of the new Hitachi cars in the yard. I have seen some pictures of them testing. So again, get your pictures soon if you want to get these older Bud cars. Now let's take a look at the cars working. Here we are at the Lexington Market Station downtown. This is a transfer spot between the subway and the light rail upstairs. View inside the car. This was, if I'm not mistaken, a Saturday evening, so not too many people on at this point. This is the eastern end of the line at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Some nice graphics on the wall. The Old Court Station. In case you want to see what an elevator looks disassembled. Outside on the line, I'm sorry, that was Shot Tower. This is Old Court Station. They were wrong railing on this day due to some track work. Old Court is a bus feeder station as well, to relatively new flyer buses. I always wanted to get a few pictures at some of the highway overpasses along the line. This is McDonald Road, near the Owings Mills station, and the cars are running here in the middle of I-785. It's a nice, easy picture here. Back down to the Inner Harbor in Baltimore. Nice view of a Coast Guard ship. Always nice to walk around the Inner Harbor. Nice restaurants, shopping area, and interesting things to see. While we were in Baltimore, we took a few pictures of the Curtis Bay um, coal area here. These are GP39 locomotives that were heavily rebuilt for what they do. CSX brings coal in here, and these modified GP39s bring the coal around through various processes and onto waiting ships, mostly being shipped to Europe. But this is certainly an interesting operation to see. And here you can see a CSX train bringing cars in to the Curtis Bay area for shipment. Another view of the area. In case I'm sure you've all seen on the news in March of 2024, there was that horrible accident with I-76 with the Francis Scott Key Bridge. There it is in the background about 2 weeks before the MV Dali crashed into it. And just for historical purposes, this was on a trip that I took back. You can see the damage there. This is supposed to be rebuilt soon, and obviously it was a terrible tragedy. Also in Maryland, the commuter train MARC. Here is an AEM7 4902 at the Riverside Shops in storage. Also in Baltimore, the Canton Railroad got some new locomotives. This is actually owned by the state of Maryland. It's a switching and terminal railroad that switches Seeger Terminal mostly at the Port of Baltimore. That's a Knoxville Locomotive Works engine. And probably the most famous thing in Baltimore for us rail fans is the Railroad Museum, the famous B&O Museum, which opened in 1953. The former B&O Mount Clair Station, site of they claim to be the site of the first passenger service in 1830 and the first telegraph in 1844. The roof was badly damaged in 2003, but as you can see by this drone view, looks very nice now. That's the Baltimore skyline in the background. A couple different views of the equipment. Nice shot of that RDC. And while we're in the area, we'll head down to Washington, D.C. This was the farewell to the 2000 series subway cars. In October, 76 cars were built by Breda in 1982, rebuilt by Alstom in Hornell, New York between 2002 and 2004. And they were officially retired in May of 2024. But the public asked for a farewell fan trip, and WMATA obliged. And October 19th, here's the ceremonial last train, which operated on the Green Line all day. Here we are at the West Hyattsville station on the Green Line. You can see they put these nice stickers on here to commemorate the last day. This is
Hello, is this Herb?
Yes.
This is Bob Newhouser. I saw your text message. What you have to do, did you get the announcement of our meeting or not?
Yes, Andrew sent it to me.
Okay, so you have to go, if you click on the green line, it'll get you to our homepage. There's a Zoom button.
Can you hear me, Bob?
Did you get an email then with the link to the meeting?
No, never got the
All right,
link to the meeting.
let's do this with
we
me on it
can
because that's
hear
the
you
only
on the
way
show,
you can
Bob.
get on. You can just go to the website, erausa.org. There'll be a Zoom button. Just click on that Zoom button. You have to.
There we go. Okay, Naylor Road on the way back up. The train made 4 or 5 round trips on this day. Naylor Road again. Another view of the new graphics applied for just this day. There were rail fans crushed in the 2 end cars. The middle of the train was periodically empty. Here's the farewell train at the College Park station. While I was waiting for this, just happened to get a CSX freight with ET44AH leading. And also from that view, you can see, hold on one second. You can see the light rail, which is currently being built, the Purple Line. Purple Line's a 16.2-mile light rail line currently under construction in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. Also connecting WMATA stations like here and MARC stations also here at New Carrollton, College Park, Silver Spring, and Bethesda. This is around the area here at College Park, lots of bus transfers. You can see the light rail construction is moving along. Lots of nice graphics around here too, getting you ready for the service that's going to come in, which is supposed to open in late 2027. Again, here's some University of Maryland bus shuttles. And that's the actual College Park station. This was taken in July of this year. I was here in April and none of this was in place yet, so they're working fast. So let's take a quick look at the line. This is the Eastern Terminal at New Carrollton, which, as you know, is an Orange Line metro station and also a MARC and Amtrak station. Big bus terminal here. That's where the light rail line will come in and meet the subway and bus terminal. Heading west on the line, this is the Glen Ridge station, next to an office park and a shopping outlet. A couple views of the Glen Ridge station. Just west of here is the maintenance facility called the Glen Ridge Maintenance Facility. They have 3 or 4 cars in, but they haven't been really out for the public to see. Continuing west, this is the Beacon Heights East Pine Station. Riverdale Park North End University of Maryland Station. When finished, there'll be 21 stations. There will be 28 CAF LRVs operating along the line. This is in the University of Maryland area, as you can see there from the graphics in the background. Couple pictures here, right next to the campus. This will be fun to see when it's finished. Have to make another ERA trip down here to ride this. This is right next to the campus on Baltimore Avenue. There's the student activities building with the light rail in front. And that will be nice to see when it's open, fall or late 2027. Here, we're back in the Washington Metro. This is the 6000 series car built by Alstom in 2006 at the Georgia Avenue station. My last view on the last ride of the 2000 series cars at the Mount Vernon Square 7th Street station. Car 3265 Mount Vernon Square, built by Breda in 1987. Currently, there's only 3 classes of cars running: the 3000s from Breda, the 6000s from Alstom, and lots of 7000s from Kawasaki. On my trip to DC, I wanted to visit Potomac Yard. This station opened in May of 2023. I hadn't quite been here yet. This is a 7000 series Kawasaki train. Here we are at the new station. Some nice views from sort of an open air walkway that crosses the Amtrak VRE tracks and takes you here to the subway. Here's what you can see with Amtrak trains from the overpass. The fence is really has basically a chicken wire fence. So I had to take this with my cell phone, but there are possibilities here for photographers. The fare control Again, this opened in 2023. And just to go back to the history files, DC Transit PCCs 1211 and 1402 at a car barn, both built by St. Louis Car Company, one in 1939, one in 1944. Trolleys last ran here in 1962, before the new streetcar came about 10 years ago or so. You can see some of this stuff at the National Capital Trolley Museum, which is always worth a visit. And back downtown at Gallery Place, Chinatown on the Red Line, one of the 7000 series cars from Kawasaki. If you like buses, the circulator is supposed to stop running on December 31st of this year. Lack of funds has caused its demise. This was always a wonderful way to get around DC fairly cheaply, complementing the subway. Shame to see this go. But I was happy to get a few pictures of Union Station while I was out looking for those buses. Designed by Daniel Burnham and opened in 1907. Union Station is always a great place to visit. 18 platforms, 22 tracks, 4.8 million Amtrak passengers alone in 2023. Just a few pictures inside. There's the David Gunn engine, 6000, Amtrak ACS 64. Couple of cellars. Get your pictures now, as you know. They will eventually be replaced. And here's my train back to New York City. Yes, I do enjoy train travel too. So we'll head back on the corridor. A brief stop here at Abrams Yard in North Brunswick. Though there are 2 retired turboliners here for first responder training. There's still 1 more in Cedar Hill, Connecticut, so apparently there's 3 left. These were the rebuild turbos, which was a 2003 project with New York State to rebuild for 125 mile an hour speeds on the Empire Corridor. That didn't really take off too well, and this is where you can see 2 of them today. Continuing up, well, here's another shot at the other of the other train set. Continuing up, here we are in Newark, New Jersey. This is the dock bridge used by PATH and the Northeast Corridor, built in 1935, a pair of vertical lift bridges. Always nice to get some interesting different views. Continuing further east, north, this is the New Jersey Transit Atlas wrapped model ALP 45 here, crossing the Sawtooth Bridges in Kearny. This is the place where Midtown Direct separates from the Morris and Essex and connects to the NEC. You can see Harrison and Newark in the background. A couple views of the PATH shops in Harrison. PATH calls it the Harrison Car Maintenance Facility. PATH is a 13.8 mile network. 4 routes, 13 stations. I'm sure many here have ridden it before. Began in 1908 as Hudson and Manhattan, and in 1962 became PATH. And there's 350 PA5 cars built by Kawasaki currently in service. And you see some of the older work cars on the left there. Here's a few shots of the Portal Bridge under construction. You can see the elevated ramp there called the New Portal Bridge or Portal North, scheduled to open also in 2027. It's designed to be more resilient. It's built 50 feet over the Hackensack River, was 58% complete in June. And obviously this bridge is a problem for Amtrak and New Jersey Transit today because it's ancient, it gets stuck, and the new bridge or the new right-of-way here will certainly avoid a lot of problems. So here's a few pictures today, or actually a couple months ago. And here's where we were in March, much less work done. That was the first piece of the bridge approach that was put in at the time. And we'll head into New York. Here we are at Penn Station. ACS 64 657. A lot of work's been done in Penn Station too. Worth the trip. Here's a Long Island Railroad Bud-built M3. The East End Gateway Viaduct, East End Gateway rebuild from 20 to 2024, designed to improve passenger flow and enlarging the walking corridor, raising the ceiling 18 feet. This is the entrance at 7th Avenue and 33rd Street. Lots of nice work here. This really looks nice compared to how it was before. Long Island Railroad celebrated its 190th anniversary this year. We'll take a look at a few shots on the Long Island Railroad. We recently learned that the railroad is looking to replace these engines, both the dual mode DM30 ACs, which you see here, and the standard diesel DE30 ACs. It'll take a while, but get your pictures. This is the new place to photograph in Jamaica on the track 11 and 12, which opened recently, which is basically exclusive service for trains going into Atlantic Terminal in Brooklyn. It's a nice, well-lit morning view in the summer, looking across all of the tracks, and you could just stand here and photograph lots of stuff. So here's a train passing J Tower coming into Jamaica Station. This is a Brooklyn train arriving from Atlantic Terminal. M3s doing the same thing. Lots of times these M3s are used on the Atlantic Terminal Brooklyn service. Nice combo shot here with a diesel haul train and a Bombardier built M7. I got pretty lucky with this one. I got all three classes of Long Island Railroad MUs in one picture. But usually when I make my way to Queens, I try to get some pictures of the New York and Atlantic freight trains. Here we see RS40, which is running from Fresh Pond out to the Central Branch on this day. Train goes through nice and slow, so there's all kinds of angles you can take as it's coming through. Lots of different combination shots. This particular day was funny. I got this picture. I was headed out to Queens to a meeting in Queens Village. I jumped on a Hempstead train to Queens Village, and I beat the train there. So I was able to get a picture here as well. Take a look at some other shots along the system. This is Rego Park, one of the pedestrian overpasses. You could see the right-of-way there on the right and the left for the Ozone Park branch, which is no longer in service. But I was here this day to see the Cannonball, which runs over the summer tourist season as a express train out to the Hamptons and Montauk. Always nice to see such a long train on the railroad. This is the relatively new Elmont UBS Arena Station, opened in 2021. Love that signal bridge as a backdrop. Again, get your diesel shots today. But obviously I was out there to try to get this. Here again is the Progress Rail PR20B 300 leading RS40 again. That track on the left is wiggling into Belmont Park. And here is Long Hood Forward 300 going through New Hyde Park. This looks totally different with the third track, but definitely a necessary addition for Long Island Railroad customers. This is an aerial shot at the Westbury station. All those fences on the right is set up for the Cricket World Cup, which was held in Westbury over the summer. One picture I've always wanted to take is here at the Morris Park Shops. That's an Atlantic terminal train heading toward the tunnel to go to Brooklyn. This is the Boland's Landing employee station for the Morris Park Shops. Love that the the sign that's there. Here we are at the abandoned Richmond Hill Station on the Lower Montauk. Passenger trains ran here till March of 1998, but this is the New York and Atlantic's access from Fresh Pond east to Jamaica and points east on the line. You can see it going under the Jamaica subway. Here's a picture I actually took last year, also RS-40 heading east. You can see the Jamaica subway. If you look at this picture and you rewind to 1960, where there's no drones and no supermarket, that's what you would see. This is Alco S2 452, 1960. And if you go up on the right of way in 1967, you could see an experimental rail bus. You can see the Richmond Hill Station in the background. This was tested in a few places as I guess an idea for less than RDC type service. A couple more views on New York and Atlantic. Here we are in Long Island City. This is NYA's newest locomotive, leased from GATX, a GP38-2, built as Penn Central 7947. I love that they leased this engine and repainted it, so at least we have one more green thing running around instead of some leased Smurfs. Again, Long Island City, Bliss Yard. Here we are under the Kosciuszko Bridge. A famous shot here in Maspeth on the Lower Montauk. Switching to the Bushwick branch, this is switching Brooklyn Beer. Varick Yard, also on the Bushwick branch. And a zoom shot between all the buildings here, approaching Flushing Avenue on the way back to Fresh Pond. New York and Atlantic is always an interesting thing to photograph, especially the city trips. Another shot of, well, this time RS-41 coming back into Jamaica. This is from the pedestrian walkway that accesses all the platforms. There was a ceremony at Grand Central Madison for the 190th anniversary. Long Island Railroad President Rob Free is speaking there, and that's Long Island Sunrise Trail President Steve Quigley, who actually passed away a few months ago. Very nice man, and did a lot for railroading on Long Island, so he will certainly be remembered. I'm sure you've seen pictures before in Grand Central Madison, but this is our newest commuter station in New York City, opened in January 25th, 2023. Nice elevators here to avoid you from walking lots of stairs. Escalators, I should say. Elevators too, though. And here's the access from the lower level at Grand Central down toward the Grand Central Madison concourse. So it's a must to check out for those who are not New York City natives. But since we're on the since we're in Grand Central, we'll take a look at that. Always a wonderful place to visit. And what you want to see on Metro North now, there's lots of interesting trains. These Genesis engines, officially P32AC-DMs. Metro North has 27, Connecticut has 4, and they power all the diesel hold trains out to Poughkeepsie, a couple of Wassaic, and the Danbury direct trains, and several of them are wrapped in various historical liveries. This is the obvious New York Central one, which is really nice to see. Metro North is in the process of purchasing, or actually having them delivered, Siemens Charger locomotives. They will replace most of these, but not all of them. So get your pictures anyway. M3s can be seen here as well. Newest wrap here is 214, which is a 40th anniversary employee locomotive. There are pictures on each locomotive of employees. You can see the designs there as well. White Plains Clock Tower, lots of interesting things, Manhattan, Skyline, different things to look, and each one of those tiles is an employee. You can see fellow railfan genius Mike Foley there in the middle. Lots of people are on this engine, and it's really good to see if you look up close. There's the Penn Central Unit 217. And all four of Connecticut's engines look like this. There was talk of them being rewrapped in the Coke Zero paint that's used on the Hartford line. Hasn't happened yet. We will have to see. Going back to the history files, here's FL9 2002, 1986 shot by my friend Erica Shustowitz, who couldn't make the show tonight because he's working, and a shot of an ACMU 1153 in 1996. These were sure nice to ride too. News on the line, or news in the area. Danbury Railway Museum about a year ago, close to this date, got two electrics that had been stored in the Albany area for years. This is an Alco GE T3A built in 1926. Behind it is an Alco GE S1. They were acquired by the Mohawk and Hudson chapter of the NRHS, and they sat at a place called Beacon Island in Glenmont, New York for years till they had to go, and money was raised, and they were shipped to Danbury. This was, I believe, early January of 2024. Here they are waiting for their opportunity to be trucked into the yard, which is right over my right shoulder in this picture. They just happened to clean up FL9 2006 in the Danbury Railway Museum. Always makes for a nice shot. Most of us stood around for a while, and then they started bringing the locomotives in pieces. That's one of the trucks from the T3A. It backed in. They had this crane set up to take it off the semi, and they had this strange contraption that can navigate tight turns to actually get it into the museum. And it started to get dark, so I just got these couple of pictures, and good to see. Since we're looking at that, now we'll head out to Wyoming on our way to Salt Lake City. I always try to throw in a few scenery shots because it's nice to see. This is the Old Faithful Geyser in Yellowstone National Park. It's almost like public transit because they actually schedule when it's going to erupt. Sometimes they think they do better than most transit agencies, and it did work on time. So very nice to see. And as you can see, the lineup of people just looks like a steam fan trip somewhere at Port Jervis from the 90s. And just a couple of pictures in Yellowstone, beautiful place. Very nice to see. This is the Grand Prismatic Spring, boardwalk views of a rainbow-colored hot spring. That really was interesting to see. We don't have anything like that in the Bronx where I grew up. So now that we're close, we'll take a look at Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City has a wonderful light rail system. You can see the lines here. Red, green, purple, blue, and the streetcar, which is shown here as grayish. This has expanded greatly since I was here last during the Olympics. So I visited this year in August, and I'll show you some of the new extensions that were built. This is the line from West Valley to Salt Lake City Airport. Just catching up here with my notes. These are the newest cars in the fleet. S70 Siemens built cars that came in 2010 to 2012. They seem to cover almost all of the Green Line trains that I saw. A little art here. Most of these stations have nice bus transfers, which this one does. Here is a train, again, leaving West Valley Central on the Green Line. They're in the process of campaigning again for another Olympics, which is what this ad shows. When they did this in 2002, they actually borrowed light rail cars from Dallas and buses from many transit authorities in the US. That was really cool to see. Heading in on the Green Line, I guess this would be sort of north. Decker Lake Station. Again, these are all S70 cars from 2010 to 2012. There's 77 of these. Just north of the West Valley Central Station. Redwood Junction. River Trail. This is the Jordan River Service Center. You can see in the background one of the Salt Lake City streetcars. They're exactly the same S70s, so they're maintained here. A couple of pictures above the yard. The Green Line comes in at Central Point Station, which is here. That's a Green Line merging in to the main line. And off on the left here is the Salt Lake City streetcar, which we will see shortly. These are the original cars from 1998, Siemens built SD100s. Nice cars. Again, another Central Point's another big bus transfer location. BRT Gilligs here for you bus fans. A couple of cars passing each other, S70s both on the Green Line. And that's one of the original Siemens SD100s in the new colors. Was happy to see these. I didn't know they were there. And here we see the connection between the UTA tracks, light rail network, and the streetcar. This is the bumping block right next to the Central Point Station. And here is a streetcar arriving, also an S70, as I mentioned before. This was originally called the Sugar House streetcar. Now it's the S line, opened December 8th, 2013. And I'll take you on a tour of this line. You get some combo shots here as well if you're lucky. Easy to get the picture of the two trains, hard to get without people. Some nice graphics here as well. The car has just turned off the parallel trackage there to the main line, heading east. This is the South Salt Lake City station. Some nice graphics here as well. Interior of the cars. This was just after rush hour, so relatively empty here as well. 300 East station. Car headed into Central Point. Here's a car headed east to Fairmont. This is the 500 East station. Very friendly operators. 700 East station. Seems like a lot of transit-oriented development around this line already. New apartment buildings at almost every station. Sugarmont Station. Interesting foliage next to the right-of-way. And here we are coming into the terminal at Fairmont. Bumping block. So like I said, this used to be called the Sugar House streetcar. The name comes from the sugar beet test factory of the Deseret Manufacturing Company that used to be in this neighborhood. And the name has stuck ever since. Fair machines, just in case you're into that. And some local graphics explaining why this is called Sugar House. And one last view at Fairmont. Heading back to Center Point. Here's a better shot of the two next to each other. Unfortunately, this was my one bad weather day in Utah. Now we'll switch to the blue line. It was extended out to Draper Town Center since I was last here. It runs from Draper to downtown. Some of this was on a former Union Pacific line, 19.3 miles, 25 stations. This is Draper Town Center, which opened in 2013. Lots of nice stuff to incorporate in pictures here. This is the second order of light rail cars that came in 2001 to 2003, Siemens SD160s. They look like the SD100s. This is the next station in, Kimball's Lane. Always love to get the mountains in the background. Not used to that from New York City either. Again, Kimball's Lane. This is the Crescent View station. This is Sandy Expo. This is a station that opened in 2006, an add-on station. In case you're interested, the track system started December 4th, 1999. And this is again Sandy Expo. Now we'll switch to the red line. Runs from here in South Jordan to the University of Utah. This is the 2011 extension out to Daybreak Parkway. This is a long line, 23.7 miles with 26 stations. One of the S70 cars here at the terminal, Daybreak Parkway. You can see the bumping blocks down there. That's the station building. Looks a little different than everything else. Elevated view of the same thing. Again, beautiful mountains. This is between Daybreak Parkway and the South Jordan Parkway stations. I imagine my next trip back, this will be all apartments. TOD seems to be working really well in Salt Lake City. South Jordan Parkway Station again. This is Old Bingham Highway Station. Nice signals, mountains. The timetable says 4800 Old Bingham Highway. The station says 4773. Interesting. This is the red line working our way downtown. Jordan Valley Station, beautiful mountains in the background. Jordan Valley Station. Lots of nice TOD here over my left shoulder. Transit-oriented development of apartments and stores. Sugar Factory Road from the air. West Jordan City Center. Gilligs for those bus fans. It's pretty much all you see in Salt Lake City. And coming into historic Gardner Station. And Bingham Junction, the last spot before it joins the main line to go in to the city. Since we're in the city now, that is a remnant of the Salt Lake City Olympics in 2002. It was a countdown for how many days were left before the Olympics were starting. This is at the arena station, still there today. Here's a few pictures downtown, closer to Temple Square here. Unfortunately, the famous temple was under construction. This is the Church of the Latter-day Saints, built in 1853. Get some really nice pictures of this if it wasn't under construction with the cars passing. Just basically right next to the Temple Square station. This is the arena station. It's where the blue and green lines split off right in front of the Union Pacific station. That UP station was built in 1908, closed in 1986 when Amtrak moved somewhere else. I read today that it became a hotel, so that'll be interesting. Um, the fare is free downtown on this, so good way to explore. Going back into the history files, not the greatest slide I have, but this is the Salt Lake, Garfield, and Western called Salt Air. It was a trolley that ran to an amusement park on the shore of the Great Salt Lake, also owned by the LDS Church. Um, Trolley ended in 1951. Some of the cars were used and pulled by diesels till 1958. This slide was taken in 1947. Um, just looking for something old from Salt Lake City. Here we are again back at the arena station and kind of framed pretty well here with the Union Pacific station in the background. Looking the other direction at the station. And that is a Green Line train coming from the airport, joining the Blue Line and heading into downtown. We'll follow the Green Line out a little bit. Green Line in total is 19 stations, 15 miles. This extension to the airport came in 2013. This is right next to the North Temple Bridge station. You can see it there in the background. That's a connection with the Frontrunner commuter rail, which we'll take a look at shortly. Two trains passing, heading into downtown. One heading to downtown, the other to the airport. This is on the bridge over the Frontrunner trains, and that's looking down. This happens to be Frontrunner engine number 1. We'll go into this in a little bit more detail later. Here's two trains passing. And a better shot of the light rail car with the ramp down to the Frontrunner platform. Heading out on the Green Line, there's a few stations before the airport. This is Jackson Euclid. Fair Park here. There is a UP track about a half a block away from that picture. I heard a horn, got this SD70M back up to the light rail power station. And I didn't make it into the airport to take pictures, but that is a good look at the light rail system the way it is today. I was lucky to have some good weather. Now we'll take a look at the Frontrunner commuter train. This is the Draper station with the nice mountains. Before we go into more detail, just a few more touristy shots from the area. This is the former Union Pacific line, built in 1909, that station in West Yellowstone, Montana, sort of the entrance to Yellowstone National Park. That's the famous Roosevelt Arch, entrance to Yellowstone Park in Gardner, Montana. This was built opened September 1st, 1903, and the cornerstone was laid by President Roosevelt, hence the name. Another view of Grand Prismatic Spring. That's just kind of amazing to see. A couple views of what you'd see in Yellowstone National Park. And the famous white Model 706 buses. There's 8 of them that were shipped here to Yellowstone from Skagway, Alaska. They now have insides from a Ford E450 van, but they still look nice. And actually spending 3 or 4 days in the park, I only saw one, but at least I did see one. This is the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. Spectacular. The Bonneville Salt Flats. This is out Interstate 80 on the Utah-New Mexico border. This is the Great Salt Lake at the entrance to Antelope Island State Park. And heading south of Salt Lake City, this is Price, Utah. These are helper trains that used to be part of the Utah Railway. Lots of nice stuff out here. This is near Green River, Utah. This was on the way to Arches National Park, which is certainly worth a visit. Not like anything I've seen here in the Northeast. And freight trains, Utah Railway here, now part of the Genesee and Wyoming conglomerate, GP40-3. This is the Midvale Yard. You can see the light rail tracks in the background. Savage, Bingham, and Garfield, GP38-2 in a veteran's livery, also here at Midvale. And now Frontrunner, 17 stations, 88 miles, opened in April of 2008. This extension south here opened in 2012. I haven't seen this yet. So this is the Vineyard Station. These are MPI built MP36PH-3C engines. They're listed as number 1 to number 21, but number 12 was sold to the North Star in Minneapolis, and number 13 and 14 were sold to the MBTA in Boston. This is the Orem station. Bus rapid transit here to Orem. This was interesting because they have left-hand doors on these New Flyer BRT buses. Another view at Orem. And probably my favorite shot of the Frontrunner is with the drone here at Provo. Lot going on here, but you could see the Frontrunner train, again, engine number 1, about ready to depart for Salt Lake City. UP Freight going by, big bus terminal here on the right, and beautiful mountains, and looks like, again, new apartments right next to transit. So they're doing something right in Salt Lake City, that's for sure. Last picture in Utah, that's the shop switcher, former VRE engine V07 became Utah 901. This apparently was the shop switcher at the facility here north of downtown Salt Lake City. I took this in September. I'm sorry, in August. In September, it was sold to the New Hope Railroad in Pennsylvania, and I got it sitting here in New Hope. I had seen somewhere that it was sent here, so we made a quick stop to see it. You never know where something is going to end up, but from VRE to Utah to New Hope, Pennsylvania. And it was actually on the train this day, in service. So since we're in Pennsylvania, let's head to Philly. This is the Patco Franklin Square station, which opened in 1936, opened and closed several times throughout the years, and closed for the last time in September of 1979, scheduled to open, not scheduled yet, but planned to open in early 2025. This is right by the Ben Franklin Bridge. Keystone Service, Amtrak ACS 64 at Overbrook SEPTA station, kind of like this with the foliage and the signal. SEPTA Silverliner 4 here, headed toward Center City. 232 of these were built, and they're largely still in service. The reason we went there, everybody's remembering their history. SEPTA wrapped a couple of cars up for various historical railroads. This is the Pennsylvania Railroad wrap here at the Narberth station on the Paoli line. SEPTA stickered up 4 cars, as you see here, Pennsylvania, Penn Central, Reading, and Conrail. And here's a regular set headed west at Narberth. The other reason to come is obviously the Route 15 on Girard Avenue. The PCC2s were taken out of service in 2020, and they were rebuilt slowly over the last 4 years. They came back on June 16th of 2024 after a nice rebuild in SEPTA's Woodland Shops. They're now called PCC3s. Originally, they were built in 1947. This is at the Richmond-Westmoreland Loop, so wasn't expecting anybody on the car. But this is what they look like inside after overhaul. Some nice graphics up here as well, telling you what they did. Lots of work. And here is a car heading out. Again, this is Richmond-Westmoreland, the end of the eastern end of the Route 15. Here's a couple shots along the line, Girard and St. Bernard Street, sort of just west of Lancaster Avenue. Probably my favorite shot of the day, 63rd and Girard at the western end of the line. Here we are turning from Girard onto Lancaster for this one block. Kind of documents the time in history with the voting signs. 2328, again, Girard and Lancaster, about to turn on Lancaster for that one block. We were lucky enough while we were out in the morning to run into this Kawasaki-built car that was being returned to the former Red Arrow lines in 69th Street after a rebuild in Woodland Shops. Here is that car heading out. But we were standing here waiting to take the picture of 9000, which recently was returned to its as-delivered livery. This car was delivered in November of 1980, and here it is headed outbound on the Route 36. Here we are in the trolley subway at 37th Street Station. Again, nice to have a nod to history. Also in Philly, if you've been reading the news, lots of stories about the United States ship, built in 1950, fastest ship to cross the Atlantic. It's currently sitting in Pier 82 in Philly. It was bought by Oskaloosa County, Florida, which bought it to sink it to become a artificial reef, apparently the world's largest artificial reef. And in case you're interested, Oskaloosa is near Pensacola, Florida. This was supposed to leave in November, and it has been delayed a few times. So get your pictures now. This is sad to see, but it certainly was a beautiful ship in its time. Maybe for next year, I'll dig out a few shots of it in service. It's a couple pictures just so you can see the condition for those who are boat fans. So let's go to the history files for Philly. This is PTC 8190, a 1923 Brill Peter Witt car on Route 63. Route 63 was Catherine and Bainbridge, and 63 was abandoned in 1955. It's a red border Kodachrome, so there was no date, but pretty decent scan. Unfortunately, this is the end of some of the Peter Witts at Bialis Scrap in 1958. Really nice shot here of car 2609, an Air Electric, taken by Mike Licken. A former Toronto PCC in service for SEPTA at 63rd and Malvern, the end of Route 10. In 1977, you can see it must have been a fan trip. Somebody put Toronto roll sign in. 2168 at Richmond, Westmoreland, where you saw my first PCC shot tonight in Philly. This is also taken by Mike Licken. The Route 60 is now a bus, which still comes into the terminal. And a former Toronto, original Birmingham, Alabama PCC, taken here in 1938. It just says Route 60. Since we're looking at historical pictures here, we'll head north. Boston, this is pre-MBTA. This is the MTA, ex-Dallas car 3337 at Capon Street on the Mattapan-Ashmont line in 1962. Ex-Dallas car 3323 on Huntington Avenue. Today's Route E. 3152 at Watertown in 1962. The line to Watertown, the A line, closed June 20th, 1969. Last I was here, this is just a empty facility that the MBTA still owns and still used kind of as a bus loop. Went up to Boston at the very end of October to take a look at the Type 10 mock-up. CAF is building 100 cars for the MBTA. There will be 100% low floor, 54% longer than current MBTA trolley equipment, and it's an $810 million order to replace the Type 7s and Type 8s. This Type 10 mock-up was on display in front of Boston City Hall under a tarp October 29th and 30th. Public could go inside the mock-up. It's a very detailed mock-up. Lots of information around, lots of people to talk to. Good to see. Other thing of interest in Boston, this car, 01643, was a Pullman standard car built for Boston, 1969 to 1970. Used to run underneath Dorchester Avenue, right where it's sitting here in South Boston for a long time, 55 years. It's sitting in the parking lot of a place called On the Dot. It's a residential and commercial development place. It was moved here June 11th of this year, and they're not quite sure what they're going to use it for yet, but I saw pictures of it last week decorated for Christmas. If you're in Boston, go take a few pictures. And when there's a bus shuttle, you can get plenty of pictures of MBTA buses passing that car. While looking for that Pullman standard car, I stumbled across the Red Line test track, which operates from Cabot Yard up to this location here, Cypher Street at South Boston Bypass. These CRRC built cars are coming online on the Red Line. They are the exclusive equipment on the Orange Line, and they're testing on this short stretch of track between Cabot and this location. So this is kind of interesting to see. There are 238 CRRC cars destined on order for the Red Line in Boston. Couple pictures of the equipment today. It's a 1700 car at South Station, built by UTDC in Canada, 1987 to 89. Good to see. Blue Line cars, built by Siemens, 2007 to 2009 at State Street, at Aquarium. This place is very well lit, good for pictures. And underneath Faneuil Hall, if you're there with the family, always good for eating and shopping. Also news on MBTA, the South Coast Rail to New Bedford has been delayed from 2023. I'll show you a couple pictures of what it looks like earlier this year. This is restoring passenger service on the former New Haven lines to New Bedford. We're just waiting for the announcement of when this will open up for service. But it seemed pretty close in early this year. Again, this is the New Bedford station. This is North New Bedford. You can see the station signs are covered up. And this is the East Taunton station, which is kind of a junction station of the New Bedford and Fall River lines. This is the last place where they stop together before they split off to head south. Looking forward to seeing this open. Since we're in Massachusetts, head a little further east, the Cape Cod Canal Bridge, vertical lift bridge built in 1935. It's a railroad bridge. MBTA runs the Cape Flyer during the summer, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and some Monday holidays. This is the Buzzard Bay station, just outside of the Buzzard Bay station. Cape Cod is always a very interesting place to visit. This is actually just west of Cape Cod, but looks very peaceful with the water. Former Canadian National engine rebuilt and running for MBTA. Here's the same train at the Buzzards Bay station, built in 1912 for the New Haven Railroad, originally called Cohasset Narrows. So that train runs from here over the bridge you saw the picture of and heads out to Hyannis. Let's take a look at what else runs along the line. The Cape Cod Central Railroad runs dinner trains and tourist trains from Hyannis, sometimes from Buzzards Bay throughout Cape Cod. Here we are passing the Cummaquid Golf Course, a few minutes outside of Hyannis. These FL9s have been beautifully restored, and it's amazing to think that we used to ride in that leaving Grand Central to various points on the Harlem, Hudson, and New Haven lines. Here is the train at the West Barnstable station, built in 1911. And as you can see, quite a few people ride the train, which is good to see. View of the train departing. And this is what Hyannis Terminal looks like. It's now the Hyannis Transportation Center. Railroad offices are in that red building there. The MBTA train station is in the back left. That's the Hyannis Transportation Center where coach buses bring people, and there's the local Cape Cod Transit Authority, and various parking here for all these things, and the ferry, which people get shuttled to by bus. So lots of interesting things in Hyannis. This is the yard. Mass Coastal 2016 is a recently purchased GP38-2 that was originally from Missouri Pacific and later Union Pacific. Power on what they call the energy train, which moves trash off the island. And here's a couple pictures in Hyannis Yard. That's the Cape Flyer stop. They have a couple engines painted blue for the Mass Department of Transportation. And they use a couple former Long Island Railroad coaches still in service and look pretty nice inside. So my final Cape Cod shot, a picture here of the Cape Flyer headed back to Boston and running under the Bourne Bridge. A couple pictures before we leave, the Nauset Lighthouse in Eastham, Massachusetts. Provincetown, the tip of Cape Cod, the Pilgrim Monument and Provincetown Museum. You wouldn't think there'd be any electric stuff here, but we have the Bradford Street inclined elevator, which basically runs from a park up to the museum. It can fit 18 people, 85 feet of track up High Pole Hill, opened in 2022, and the fee to ride this is included in the museum visit. So a little bit of transportation there. And just to round out the pictures from Massachusetts, a quick ride to Nantucket, ferry from Hyannis. This is the Brant Point Lighthouse, built first in 1746. That's the ferry we took to get there. That's the MV Eagle, built in 1987, holds 768 people or 52 cars, run by the Steamship Authority. Someone taking a selfie there with the ship. Good idea. There is some rail interest on Nantucket. This is the Club Car Restaurant. That's the last surviving piece of rolling stock on Nantucket of the Nantucket Central Railroad Company. The railroad was built in 1881, connected Nantucket to Siasconset. It closed in 1917, and all the equipment and track was sent to France to support World War I, except that car. So if you eat in Nantucket, eat in the railroad car. There's one piece of a train station left. Here it is in Nantucket. Back to mainland Massachusetts. That's the famous Roger Williams RDC set, which was moved to the Berkshire Scenic Railway in early 2024 in Lenox, Massachusetts. Most of you have heard of this before. It was built with third rail shoes to run into Grand Central. Streamlined, lightweight DMU RDC type car built by Budd in 1956. One train set with 2 cab cars and 4 intermediate cars. It was restored by the Hobo Railroad in Lincoln, New Hampshire, sent to the Berkshire Scenic in actually August 2023. And here it is being towed to the Canaan Railroad days in Canaan, Connecticut in July of this year. A couple of scenic shots on the way down. Lee, Massachusetts, Stockbridge, Massachusetts with the old New Haven station. Housatonic, Massachusetts, stations right behind the engine. Sheffield, they didn't want to run it under its own power, so Housatonic's leased GATX engines brought it down. And here we are in Canaan with the famous Canaan Union Station and the Housatonic's inoperable RS3 joined for the picture. So while we're looking at diesels, we'll look at some service into Brightline in Miami, Florida. I showed you pictures last year of the Brightline network, my first trips down there in many years. I went back this year to take a few other pictures, which we'll take a look at now. Brightline uses the Siemens Charger locomotives to operate service along its 235-mile line. Service opened into Miami Central Station here in 2018. Here's a picture of the train leaving Central Station and the Miami Metro with its Hitachi-built subway cars. Miami Metro exclusively uses these Hitachi cars from 2017 and 2018. We saw several pictures last year. I threw a few in this year as well. What I wanted to see here, the new service that Tri-Rail started to operate in 2024, actually January 13th, 2024, operating from its main line along the Florida East Coast into Miami Central Station. And here's one of those train sets in Miami Central Station. Here we are leaving. That's a Brookville-built BL36PH locomotive that will head up the Florida East Coast to this location where it separates from the FEC, or actually the Bright Line, and hooks in with the FEC heading west to this location, which is where the train will take the hypotenuse to intersect with the Tri-Rail at CP Iris here in Hialeah. That's a lot to say. A couple pictures of these special Tri-Rail trains accessing FEC to get to Miami Central. And that's a mainline FEC train that heads down to Hialeah. That's engine 816, the last surviving GP49 from Norfolk Southern in service. And we just got lucky enough to see a Florida East Coast train crossing the Diamond here at CP Iris in Hialeah. The Miami Metro at the Hialeah station. For many years, this operated with Bud-built cars similar to what you saw from Baltimore that were built 1982 to 1986. This is what you'll see today. They're really nice cars. Here's the yard. It's called Lehman Center in Hialeah, next to the Okeechobee, nearest to the Okeechobee Metro Station. Right next to the Florida East Coast Hialeah yard. This is a GE-built locomotive, which is now powered with liquid natural gas. That's what the tender is in the middle. And Florida East Coast has been purchased by Grupo Mexico. That's what the new color looks like. Sorry to see the red and yellow go. But considering it was 20 degrees this morning, I thought I'd throw in a nice shot here from Key West. Summer will be back soon, hopefully. And interesting to find a former Chicago subway car, 2491, at the Wynwood Walls art installation in Miami. So for you Chicago fans, you have something to see in Miami. And then luck shot at the Orlando International Airport, an arriving Brightline train from Miami with the Orlando International Airport people mover passing. Since I'm from New York, I thought I'd throw this in at Universal Studios in Florida. Pretty nice looking subway entrance. We'll fly to Disney in California. Take a look at these couple shots I took from 2023. This is the Disney California Adventure Theme Park. This opened in June of 2010, and unfortunately, it's going to close February 8th, 2025. These two these two replica cars, designed to look like the red cars out in California, were built by Brookville. They're battery powered, and they've been running basically for 15 years. They're being taken out of service because they're expanding the a various wing of the park, and they need the trolley barn space for that wing. So I think one car might be put on static display, but it's a shame that you won't be able to ride these. One car is numbered 623, designed to look like some St. Louis cars built in 1932. And the number 23 in 623 was the year Walt Disney came to California. And 717, inspired by the 700 to 750 Brill cars, 717 is the opening date of Disneyland. So there are reasons for those cars to have those numbers. A couple of pictures. If you live in California, you probably have seen it already. If not, get there soon. The last day, February 8th, 2025. So happy birthday to the New York City subway. The IRT built October 27th. 1904, 120 years old. Here's a few pictures from City Hall Station taken this year with R62As on the 6th line. Always a nice place to visit. At the mezzanine, that's the access to upstairs. Nice, beautiful tiles. And new to the New York City subway, the R211 came into service February 1st, 2024. These are the R211Ts, the open gangway cars. There are 2 trains of these, only 20 cars built. That's what the open gangway looks like. They can be found on the C train if you're visiting. You can walk through the whole train. Interesting to see something new. East New York, taken earlier this year. That's East New York Bus Depot. You can see East New York Subway Yard in the background. Lots of old metal here from the BMT days. We'll go back to 1965, a little further west from here. Lots of interesting stuff in the yard at that point. The BMT Steeple Cab number 7, 207th Street Yard, 1965. The bad old graffiti days, R42, R30, Avenue J on the M in 1975. R11 at Dean Street, 1965, taken by the famous Jerry Landau. R10, 3187, Coney Island, 1968. R44, 384, Howard Beach, 1976 on the A. Can't take the air train then. And now we'll take a little ferry ride across the harbor. Staten Island Railway, Tottenville, in the nice blue stripe days. Take a look at the Staten Island Railway today. Here we are at the Arthur Kill Station, taken in October. I was out here for the first week of the R211S in service. It started October 8th of 2024. Looks nice and shiny at the Arthur Kill Station. Get your pictures now of R44s. They're 56 in service, but that will change. Couple pictures inside on the first day. Nice strip map. This was leaving Tottenville. Nice and quiet. Get your pictures of these. Jefferson Avenue Station. Clifton Yard. As most of you, I'm sure, know, Brookville built 4 engines for Staten Island Railway. Here they are. This is from the walkway to the inbound Clifton platform. You can see the nice New York City skyline in the background here. Take a little tour in the Clifton shops. R44 is being fixed. Ryder car, R32s, which are being used now for other purposes, including getting leaves off the track. This was the first one that was sent over. You can see the R211S there on the side. Wasn't quite in service yet at this time. It was still getting unwrapped from delivery. Nice picture inside. Nice combo shot of the 211 and the 44. We'll head up to Montreal. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay, this is the REM network. I showed extensive pictures of this at my show last year. This was a bus trip this year from the Motor Bus Society, the Metropolitan New York Bus group. Here we are at the Longueuil station. You can see what the REM cars look like. This opened July 31st, 2023 for just a few stations from Central Station in Montreal out here to Brossard. These are 212 Alstom Metropolis cars in service. This is going to be a huge network covering a large part of Montreal and the suburbs west. So I wanted to just show some construction pictures, kind of where we are today. This is the branch that goes to the airport. That's actually the tunnel. You can see the right-of-way on the top going underground at the Marie Curie station by Technopark Montreal. This is again is the airport line. This is right by the Technopark. And here you can see right-of-way is largely finished. Here is the connection. That's the branch to the Technopark on the right, and the airport on the right, I should say. And this is the line that goes to the West Island and Anse-Delorme. Forgive my French, please. This is the first station on the line out des Sources. This is the second station at Fairview Point Claire, right next to the autoroute. This will be nice to see when this is running. Another view of the station. Some of these are still up. This is from the old de Montagne line. The sign announcing the Roxborough station. That's where the Roxborough station used to be, actually a little bit over my left shoulder. You can see the bus loop there. That's where the sign still remains. Essentially, this part of the line heading up to de Montagne replaced the old commuter rail system that was set up here. Those, I'm sure, remember the Canadian National old electrics and old box cabs that ran up here for many years. This is the Sunnybrook station. Station was basically right here. And this is the Bois Franc station. This used to be Val Royale commuter station. That's what the REM station will be when it's finished. That's what used to run in the exact same place. Here's two English electrics taken in the 70s. And this is the new station that's been constructed, which is just east of Eastern Junction, the former Canadian National Junction, where many pictures were taken over the years. What will happen here, commuter trains from Mascouche will come in and stop on the platform there toward the left, and riders will get off here, transfer to the REM for the ride through Mount Royal Tunnel into downtown Montreal. Here's a view of what it looks like today. This used to be an at-grade crossing between two Canadian National subdivisions. The de Montagne line is basically coming at us, and you can see the branch coming off from Mascouche connecting into the new station. If you were here basically 30 years ago, it would look like that. One of the old MUs preserved somewhere, I'm sure. Windsor Station, Lucerne-l'Allier now getting a facelift. Be interesting to come here and see overhead canopies on all the platforms. You can see that happening in the picture. This is the rebuilder just outside of Montreal proper, where a lot of the stuff is done, CAD. A lot of VIA work has been done here. All the CMQ stuff was painted here, and they're currently doing some work on VIA F40s for continued use as well. Quick visit to the famous museum in Delson. Great place to see trolleys, locomotives, the last two remaining former de Montagne MUs, MR90s built by Bombardier. Last Montreal PCC needs a little work in the barn. At least it's preserved. Some of you might see yourself in the picture there. This was our Metro New York bus trip earlier this year. I've always loved these VIA F units. Glad to see one preserved inside in Delson. And a former CN box cab looking pretty well preserved in here. And a Montreal MR63 subway car, now in a museum. These were all removed from service when the new Azure Bombardier cars came in not too long ago. So take a quick look in the Montreal subway. These are currently the oldest cars around, MR73s built by Bombardier. You can find them sporadically on the green line. You can find them exclusively on the yellow and blue lines. This is Côte de Neige on the blue. Here we are on the green line. And back to the blue, University of Montreal. They're rubber tired. You've seen them in my shows for the last couple of years. Interesting experience to ride these, and you should go do it. That's what they look inside. Not bad. These are the new Bombardier-built Azur cars, which are on the orange and green lines. The Montreal system is 4 lines with 68 stations, opened in 1966, and definitely worth a visit. Here is an EXO train laying over at Central Station, which will head out to McMasterville at some point in evening rush hour. This is the news on the commuter rail line. The CRRC cars have entered revenue service. Here is one deadheading out of Montreal on a St. Jerome train to head to the yard for midday layover. It's the same manufacturer as the people that built the subway cars on Boston's Orange Line and some of the Red Line cars that are coming in. VIA has a lot of these Siemens chargers in service now on the corridor trains. Here we are at Dorval, great place to take pictures. Bathroom vending machines, you can sit in the car. And you can still see several of these VIA Genesis engines in service, as well as some F40s. One thing I always wanted to do was photograph the Genesee and Wyoming freight train that runs on the McMasterville line. I got lucky on this day. This is a regular CN freight, but here was the engines running light into Southwark Yard and Brassard to pick up a train to head east back to Richmond. Here's the train going through the St. Basile-Legrand station. And here it is heading back east through the McMasterville station with a passing EXO commuter train, again on the McMasterville line. And as we're winding down here, a little closer to home, here we are in New Jersey. That's one of the New Jersey Transit wraps to celebrate their anniversary, ALP 46. Nice public service sign. I was fortunate enough last weekend to finally find one of the wrapped New Jersey Transit buses on the 34S route. Some news from New Jersey. They're currently rebuilding the Raritan River Bridge, connecting Perth Amboy and South Amboy. Not rebuilding, building a replacement bridge, I should say. Here is the construction. This was taken in September. Newark Light Rail, always interesting to see at Newark Broad Street Station. And what you used to see, not too far away, was the Newark City Subway with PCCs. That's a Joe Saida shot from 1996. New Jersey Transit held a special event in October this year where you could come and see some of their special engines. Some equipment from the URHS was sent here as well. So nice to see railroads cooperating and showing off their historical stuff. Here's the Erie-Lackawanna engine, which has been kind of out of service for quite a while and is now running. There's a engine here that was wrapped for African-American history. Couple views at the event. Other things, Susquehanna train, SU-99, headed west through Wyckoff with new power for most people to see. Amtrak's Hellgate line, this will be something to watch over the next few years as commuter service works its way in. This is the Pelham Bay Drawbridge. That's Co-op City on the left, and that's an Amtrak ACS 64. The Co-op City station on the Hellgate line will be built right in this area. I have to come back and see what progress has been made. This was taken in March or April of this year. And this is Parkchester. Station will be down by that bridge, Unionport Road. This is the former New Haven Railroad shops on the right, which was later used by Con Edison, the electric company in New York City. But this will be interesting to see with platforms and M8s running here soon. Since we're talking about the Hellgate, this was a famous ERA fan trip in 1970, where I think the tour organizers were allowed to take pictures off the train and everyone else was on. And I remember hearing that story from the late Roger Arcara, who said he was hanging out of the window of the train to mess up the pictures of the people who wouldn't let them off. And if you look closely, you can see Roger's head hanging out of the window. Headed up a little into Connecticut, some fall foliage on CT Rail, the Hartford line in Wallingford. Amtrak's new paint is making its way in our area as well. This is Wallingford. There's that white stuff on the ground, seen here at the Windsor station. And down at New Haven, GG1s, 1970, always nice to see. That's what you see in New Haven today, the CT Rail Connecticut maintenance area. The Naugatuck Railroad, or the Railroad Museum of New England, operates freight and runs tourist trains up here. Here is a tourist train in the spring with a restored former SPV, which used to run on, Metro North years ago. This is at Thomaston Dam, famous place for photos. Since we're talking about Bud Build stuff, these are the former Dallas, Texas Trinity Railway Express RDCs that were rebuilt by All Earth Rail in Vermont and proposed to be operated at many different points in the state of Vermont as little commuter alternatives. That didn't seem to work out too well. So they're sitting here at the former Bombardier plant in Barry. And as far as I saw, they're up for sale now. New England Central's Veterans Engine in St. Albans. This was very fresh when it was taken, when I took this in September. The Roundhouse in Burlington, Vermont, with a former New Jersey Transit engine. That 313 there came from New Jersey. And that's Amtrak's Ethan Allen Express, which was extended to Burlington 2 years ago. Here is the train with one of the 50th anniversary engine leaving Burlington, headed south for Rutland. Here's Middlebury, Vermont. Beautiful old station. Couple of shots in Pennsylvania. Reading in Northern is always a wonderful place to visit. This is a train that runs from Pittston to Jim Thorpe on select weekends in the summer. Here we are with the famous NRFF freight train heading north towards Pittston. And this is a lineup of engines for potential rebuilding and that Pittston-bound train and crossing the famous viaduct, the Hometown Trestle. And the newest station on the line, Nesquehoning, with the RDC train from North Reading to Jim Thorpe. A couple of pictures in Virginia, the Buckingham branch in Charlottesville, freight operations throughout the state of Virginia, including here. And the Maryland and Delaware Railway should have already been taken over by a neighboring short line. It's in its last days. Go photograph it if you wish. It will not be around forever. These RS3s were modified with EMD insides. They're ex-Erie Lackawanna. This one was ex-Erie Lackawanna 914. This is in Seaford, Delaware, and this will probably be replaced with some MP15s or GP38s very soon. Here is the train headed east out of Federalsburg. And here's a rare meet in Seaford with Carload Express, which is the short line that is buying the Maryland and Delaware. Woodstown Central, as we're starting to get into our holiday train season, has this steam engine operating out of Woodston, New Jersey. News in the New York City area. Metro North is rebuilding the Park Avenue Viaduct. Here are the cranes working on the progress. This is a major project, and it needed to be done, and it's going well and on time so far. Here is a Providence and Worcester engine sitting at Stamford after an unfortunate fire with a local Connecticut Transit bus underneath. Metro North's newest heritage, which you saw earlier, the employee engine here at 125th Street with those cranes in the background, which help the construction. New York Central at Dockyard in Norwalk on the Danbury branch. A special train for Metro North with inspection cars at the Irvington station on the Hudson line. And back to the history files for a few pictures. 1947 Havana, Cuba. The Hague in the Netherlands with PCC type cars, 1970. Calcutta in India, 1971. I just read recently that this system is not doing too well and not many cars are available for service. Kansas City, Kodachrome original from the 50s. Mexico City with a former Detroit PCC. And now we'll head to the last section, the holiday trains. This is the Toys for Tots train for the Middletown and New Jersey Railroad at Warwick, New York. This was taken last Sunday. Here is the train at Chester, headed to Port Jervis, collecting toys at every stop. This is the Railroad Museum of New England with its Northern Lights Limited train at the famous Thomaston Station in Connecticut, north of Waterbury. Here is the train in service. Always nice to see these holiday trains. CT Rail ran its first ever Toys for Tots train last Saturday on the 14th. Here it is coming into Wallingford. And Metro North ran its employee holiday train around the system. Here it is on the New Haven line day at Westport with rare back-to-back Genesis engines, the Metro North's 2 executive cars, and they leased 3 cars from the URHS in New Jersey, including the famous Hickory Creek, which is seen here at Westport. And this was a surprise this year. Metro North took an 8-car train of M8s and covered them with green and red lights to celebrate the holiday. Here's the train passing East Norwalk last week, and I believe it's supposed to run just a couple more days this season. So if you haven't seen it yet, check the MTA's pages and you'll see where to get it. And thanks to my friends here who helped with information or photos in the show or general support. Thanks for that.